welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. I would love for you to stick around. Today's video is going to be more of like just a talking video, like me just basically sharing my opinion on a certain subject, which is toxic family members or toxic people in your life, and kind of how to, not even how to, just like my experience with dealing with them and how to kind of, how I like navigated through that. So yeah, we're just kind of like in a casual setting. I don't even have you guys like propped up on my big tripod. We're just on my vlog setup here and we're just talking because I feel like this is just like a girl talk, like, or guy talk, whoever, just like an intimate conversation is what I'm trying to say. So I have made a video in the past about being fat shamed by family. Like this was back when I first started YouTube. This was like 5 years ago, if not more, like whatever. I'll link it down below if you guys want to watch it. It's like baby me, like I'm very young. But growing up, I had many experiences where I was fat shamed by my family members, and just made to feel ashamed or embarrassed or, constantly compared to thinner people in my family, and that kind of thing. And that was basically done by my grandmother on my mom's side, and one of my aunts on my mom's side. So yeah, I've been there. If you guys are going through that, trust me, I've been there. And unfortunately, like I dealt with this my entire childhood growing up. My grandmother passed away in I think it was 2014. I think it was 2014 or 2015. And so I was like, how old was I in 2014? Well, it's 2021 now and I'm 28. So 2019, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14. So 7 years ago, I was like 20, 21, around there. And unfortunately, like the fat shaming didn't stop from my grandmother until she passed away. I think it was more of like a generational thing, and she didn't really understand either how to like communicate in a respectful way or in a way that wasn't going to damage someone's self-esteem or give them an eating disorder or like an issue, a lifetime issue. So that didn't necessarily stop with her until she passed away, but my aunt is still here, and she has tried to continue fat shaming me, basically. And the way I deal with it is I just kind of tell her, like, it's my body, it's my choice. I don't really care about your opinions on my body. Now, she is a nurse practitioner, so she really likes to push like medical issues and health and things like that on top of it. But it's not only that, it's also like her being like, oh, like you'll never find your dream man because you're fat, like nobody around your age wants fat women. Like she said this to me right before I met Dan, and she was like, yeah, like you need to lose weight in order to find your soulmate. Like all these, at least from what, this is her, at least from like what I'm hearing, because she also has like she has 3 children. Both of her daughters are married, but they're in their 30s, like early 30s. And so she was like, yeah, like from what I'm hearing from the girls' friends, like nobody really wants fatter women, at least like around your age. She was talking about a website called like Coffee Meets Bagel or something like that. And she was just kind of saying like how like nobody's dream, or nobody's like, yeah, like dream person is a fat person or a fat bodied person. And so we got into a big discussion about this because this just happened 3 years ago. And I was kind of going back and forth with her about how I can walk into any room and get any man I want. And I truly believe that. It's not really about my body size. It's about how I carry myself and my confidence. And I have the confidence to walk into a room and get any person I want. Again, like it's not about what I look like. It's more about the energy that you're giving off and like how you carry yourself. And she really did not agree with that. And it's just so funny because like a couple months later, I'm like introducing Dan to the family, and she's like, the look on her face was just like priceless. It was so funny. So yeah, so I guess when it comes to like weight and toxicity and negativity and things like that, like I still struggle with this. Like it's still something that I think about because it did give me lifelong issues as far as like mental health issues, eating disorders, disorderly eating, feelings of shame and embarrassment and things like that. And the only way that I stopped it was basically like to not allow the conversation to continue. You don't have to say it in a disrespectful way either. You could just be like grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, whoever, mom, dad, like whoever it is that's making these comments about your body. Just simply put a boundary up. I say simply, but it's really not simple to put a boundary up. I personally know how hard it is to put boundaries up. But your boundary, you would have to put a boundary up. Like your boundary would be like, I will not be around you if you continue to talk about my body at all, period. If you continue to make comments about my weight, comments about my body, comments about my food, whatever it is that they're talking about, you need to put that boundary up and say like, I will not be around you if you continue to talk about that, if you continue to make these comments about my body. And it's as simple as that. And you have to stick with that boundary. And I know how hard boundaries could be because like I'm working on boundaries in my life right now with different people and it's really hard. But again, like you have to, how do I say this? Like you allow people to treat you a certain way. And you're allowing it, you're continuing it. So you need to put that boundary up and say like, listen, like you're gonna make these comments, I'm not gonna be around you. And it's just as simple as that. Now, sticking with it is the part that's not as simple. It's the part that hurts, and it's the part that I feel like you kind of go through different emotions as far as like you grieve that person or you feel bad and guilty about putting that boundary up, especially if it's someone that you care about and if it's in your family, which is what we're talking about. So really, like, I guess all I have to say as far as like keeping that boundary when it comes to toxic family members making comments about your weight or your body or what you're eating or whatever the case may be, making comments about something that you're not comfortable with, you just have to stick with that boundary. You have to respect yourself enough to keep that boundary going, because you're teaching them how to treat you, essentially. I'm literally working through all of this in therapy right now, guys, and have been working on this for months. So now that necessarily hasn't been my issue as of lately because I just don't allow the conversation to happen. But since I'm planning the wedding and there's just like, I don't know, I feel like big life events like weddings, births, deaths, things like that, like bring about different sides of people that maybe you didn't know were there. And it also kind of like brings feelings up inside yourself that you also may not have known were there. Like, for example, my dad's side of the family and I are not on speaking terms, and I'm not gonna get into the nitty-gritty about it, but we're just not on speaking terms. A lot went down around his passing and we're not on speaking terms. And a lot of disrespect and toxicity and just nastiness has come about from that. And I think, you know, it's like, I don't want to say too much because obviously this is a public platform and like, I don't want to ruffle any feathers or hurt anybody's feelings, whoever may be watching this, but, yeah, like it's just something that you have to put the boundary up and realize like you don't deserve that treatment and you make the choice not to speak with those people anymore. At least that's what I had to do. Now, again, I bring up the wedding because like as I'm planning this wedding and like I'm thinking about all these things, you guys know my father passed away last year. Like it's just a lot to go through. So not only was I grieving the loss of my father, but I also was grieving the loss of that side of the family as well. And it's a lot, like it's a lot. And there's like a lot of feelings on that side too, with just like abandonment and like just, disrespect and manipulation and just different things like that have went on. So anyways, planning the wedding like brought up a whole bunch of different feelings in myself where I was like, okay, maybe I'll reach out to a couple of these people because I feel like my dad's not here. I feel like I want to respect my dad still in a way and have these people be part of this big moment of my life. And so I had sat with that thought for a long time and like had really tried to think about like the pros and cons of reaching out and how it could go on either way and how it would be received, like me reaching out. And I did reach out to one person on my dad's side of the family, and at first they said like they weren't ready to speak with me, and I respected that boundary. Again, like if someone's telling you they're not ready to speak with you, that's their feelings and you have to also respect that. So that's what I did. And then a couple of weeks later, they came back and they were like, I've been thinking about it and I would like to meet up with you in my therapist's office. And I was like, okay. I felt like if that person was going to be able to have like their safety net and their therapist there and like have the ball basically be in their court, like I kind of wanted to have my therapist there as well, just so that like no tag teaming or anything like that went on. But unfortunately, like my therapist wasn't available at the time that theirs was. And so I ended up going to meet up with them, and it was kind of the closure that I needed, and unfortunately it went that way, but it gave me closure one way or another. So I think it's just about having like uncomfortable conversations, and if you need closure, seeking that closure. When it's family, it's like they've been around you your entire life, and so it's really, really hard to cut them off cold turkey, or just like cut them off and feel like there's so much left unsaid, and maybe your side wasn't told, or their side, they feel like their side wasn't told. Like it's a lot, there's a lot there. And so like I felt like, and when I did go meet up with this person with their therapist, like I wasn't able to speak at all. It was almost like they were like attacking me. And then of course, like their therapist had their back. And so I made the choice to get up and leave. But leaving that meeting, I felt closure, but I also like leaving that meeting at first, I felt like I didn't have a chance to speak about my feelings and about how I was feeling and why I felt so betrayed or disrespected or manipulated or whatever the case may be by that side of the family at all. It was more just like them talking to me, and it was more of like them talking about issues with different people in my family. It was just very bizarre. But so I left that meeting feeling like I still had a lot to say. And I kind of had to sit with that for a little while and think like I know my truth and I know my reality of the situation and what went down and whatever the case may be with whoever you're having these feelings with. It's like, your truth. And it's really hard to not want to like scream your truth from like the top of the mountains. You know what I mean? Like it's really hard to not want to be heard. But I had to kind of like sit with that and realize like, I don't need to prove my truth, like, cause it's never going to change their opinion. So it was kind of like the closure that I needed. I kind of just sent like a text message and was like a very respectful text message, just being like, unfortunately at this time, like I feel like it's best for my mental health and everybody involved to cut the relationship off, and I wish you well. I wish the family well. Take care. And that was it. So that's what happened with that. Like another situation. And then of course, again, like while planning the wedding and, like bridesmaids and family and things like that, another situation went down, and I felt like I was not able to be heard again. This person was just like kind of screaming and shouting and having a adult hissy fit, and I was screaming and shouting too. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't have toxic traits of my own, because if you don't recognize your own toxic traits, like, you're just as toxic, honestly. Like, every single human being has toxic traits. Like, nobody's perfect. We all have them. It's about being self-aware and realizing like what your toxic traits are and trying to better yourself, whether that's through therapy and growing as a person, or just acknowledging your toxic traits and trying your best to change the way that you act or change the way that you speak or whatever the case may be. I feel like I'm all over the place. I feel like I went through a really big life change, right? Like my father passed away suddenly. Like that was a really big life changing thing. Like my world was turned upside down, right? And unexpectedly, I had no control. Like it was kind of just like, it just happened. And I had to roll with the punches and just keep going. And I feel like when you go through life-changing events like that, you change as a person, whether that be for the better or for the worse. That's up to you. But I feel like I matured a lot really quickly. Even though I was 26 when he passed, like, I mean, I was 2 weeks, or I was like 6 weeks away from turning 27, but I feel like I still wasn't as mature as I am now. I feel like you really, like when something like that happens to you, or a wedding or a birth or something like that, like you really self-evaluate, even if it's like subconsciously. Like I feel like I didn't really have this like coming to earth, is that the term? Huge like coming to earth moment where I was like, oh, like the light bulb went off and whatever. It's just like it kind of happens subconsciously, and you just kind of grow as a person, and you realize like what's important in life and what you will tolerate and what you don't tolerate, and also like who you want to be around you and what's really important, basically. So I think it's all about like, I think life honestly is all about like self-growth and constantly growing and constantly trying to better yourself. I don't ever want to be in a spot where I'm not working on myself in some way, whether that's like reading books that are about how to be a better person, or, you know, through therapy. I honestly feel like everybody on this planet needs therapy in some way, because there's just so much that happens to us and we don't always process it in the right way. And even if we think we're fine, like therapy really just helps you to get another perspective and work on yourself. So yeah, I think that we all need to like continue to grow and heal and work on ourselves and be very self-aware. I think self-awareness is the key to a lot of issues that come up, because if you're not aware of how you're acting or how you're coming off, like that's a big problem. Like I know for a fact that I'm a very reactive person. Like I will react first because I'm emotional. Like I'm just very emotional. I'll react first and then think later. So like if something happens, like we get into Dan and I get into an argument, or like my mom and I get into an argument or something, it's like I want to react first. Like that is my instinct. I want to react, and then I'll think about it later and like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I shouldn't have reacted in that way. So like I'm working on trying not to react right away and think about it, and then come like with a clear head and have a conversation. So I think it's just really important to be self-aware and realize that maybe you also have some toxic traits that you need to work on. The next thing I guess that I'm getting at is like boundaries. Boundaries are life-changing and literally can solve so many problems. I feel like, at least for me, that's what happened. Like, if you put a boundary up, just know that like you're not being rude, you're not being disrespectful, you don't have to feel guilty for it. It's something that you're doing for yourself and for your peace of mind and for your mental health and just your sanity, honestly. So if you put a boundary up with someone, just know like stick with it. Like you put that up for a reason. Give yourself the self-respect and awareness to really stick with it, and just see like how much better over time like your life becomes. I feel like since putting up boundaries with certain people, there's just like this openness and like airiness. Like I don't feel like I'm like constantly on eggshells or like stepping on someone's toes. Like it's just like life is a lot better when you teach people how to treat you. So yeah, I know I asked on Instagram if there were like any specific things that you guys wanted me to talk about when talking about like toxic people and negative people. And a lot of you talked about like, how do I tell someone in my family not to talk about my weight? Or how do I deal with someone in my family who constantly make comments about my weight, or just like negativity in general? So I think I touched on that Also know, like, you're not crazy. Like, I also went through this period where I was like, why are all of these things happening to me in this moment? Like, maybe I'm truly like the bad person. Like, maybe it's me. Like, maybe I am like pushing all these people away or doing things that like aren't, maybe I'm wrong. You know what I mean? And I worked through that with my therapist, with her being like, no, like there's a time when you are growing and like you're going through this self-growth moment where the universe literally pushes people away from you who aren't good for you, and trust that it's for a reason. So I think like when you're growing and healing as a person, like you'll just notice like people just, you outgrow people. And I think that's really important too. Another big thing that I saw on Instagram was like, how do you do this without like stepping on another family member's toes? So for example, like I had that conversation with my aunt where I put up the boundary. It's like, how does that affect my mom? And I think in a way, like you also have to realize that you're an adult, and your mom, your father, whoever else is an adult. I see how it could be difficult, and it is difficult for me as well. Like, because it's not just my aunt and my mom's side of the family that I've had like an issue with. Me and my aunt are fine. Like, she respects that boundary. She hasn't mentioned anything else about my body since I said that, but I have had a falling out with a couple of other people on my mom's side of the family, and we haven't yet had like a family event that we've all had to go to and like be in front of each other for, so I think that might be difficult. But again, I think it's just, even if I'm in the same room with these people, like I don't have to be negative. I don't have to be hateful. Like I don't have to go out of my way to be mean to them. Like I can simply just still say hello, hey, how are you? Like that kind of thing. And then move about with my day. Sit next to somebody else. You know what I mean? Like just be cordial without being hateful. And again, I think that takes a lot of like self-restraint and self-awareness to do. But yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna end the video. I could literally talk about this for hours and hours and hours, and maybe one day like I'll go live on YouTube and like we can just like have an interactive conversation about it. But I think for now I'm gonna leave this here. The main things that I would say to take away from this video are, know that if you are having an issue with someone else and they are disrespecting you in some way and you feel that way, put up a boundary, because you're teaching people how to treat you. There's nothing wrong with putting boundaries up. If they don't respect that boundary, then I think that that's grounds for cutting them off for a little while, or even just letting them know like, you're not respecting my boundaries, so I'm gonna remove myself from the situation for a little while. So yeah, boundaries are really important. Self-awareness is also really important, and communication is also really important. So I hope that helped. I felt like I just wanted to have like an intimate talk with you guys and just be able to like chat and talk about things that aren't always so sunshine and rainbows. But yeah, I love you guys, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.